Hey, so with the nominees for the Game Awards being announced the other day, many people have been celebrating and arguing about the choices, particularly about Shadow of the Erdtree, a DLC, being nominated for Game of the Year. And as a From Software focused channel myself, I thought I'd weigh in on the topic. The consensus seems to be that Shadow of the Erdtree should win, mostly because it would be funny and it would piss a lot of people off.
It would make so many people so angry. There would be a great weeping and gnashing of teeth, and I need to hear it.
Now, I agree that it would be funny if Shadow of the Erdtree won Game of the Year. You can already see people melting down on Twitter over a DLC being nominated. And while I am a huge From Software fanboy, and I love to see Miyazaki winning, you know what would be even funnier? Maybe I just want to watch the world burn, but can you imagine the reaction if Elden Ring, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Black Myth Wukong, and Metaphor ReFantazio lose out to an indie pixel art roguelite? I can already imagine the highlight reel that's gonna play.
The Game of the Year nominees are Black Myth Wukong by Game Science, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree by From Software, Balatro from Local Thunk.
If it polychromes Madness, we win easily. If it polychromes Vagabond, we probably lose on the next hand. Go big or go home, bro.
I feel like if you want to see chaos, if you want to see people get pissed off, it's not going to be from Game of the Year going to the beloved DLC of one of the greatest games of all time. It's going to be this. Like, you know, if Balatro wins, people are going to make rage videos blaming it on, like, Jeff Keighley being woke or something. And I want to see that. And while I do think Shadow of the Erdtree may win Game of the Year, and may even deserve it in some ways, I don't really want it to win. And not just because it's a DLC, but because I think other games were just better. It was good, but it wasn't even close to my favorite thing I've played this year. The base game, the best part of Elden Ring, already won Game of the Year, which it deserved. So now Elden Ring can sit down, take a back seat, and make way for the real GOAT of 2024. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about my thoughts on Shadow of the Erdtree, because I'm already working on a long video all about that. But I really just want to talk about how good Balatro is, and what sort of things I like to see win awards. Balatro has taken the world by storm, and it's getting a ton of recognition and awards already. If you're not familiar with it, it's a roguelike poker game where the objective is to beat a required score by playing poker hands, and with each round requiring a higher score, you use modifier cards to alter your deck and multiply your score. If you haven't tried it yet, you really owe it to yourself to give it a shot. I'm not even a big roguelike guy personally. I've only played a few, and I'm not even very good at them. But even when I'm losing runs in Balatro, it's so satisfying. With each run, your understanding of the game grows. You start to learn which jokers synergize with each other, how to modify your deck to be exactly what you need, and before you know it, you're hitting scores you couldn't have even imagined a few runs ago. And the music and the visuals, it just has so much style. All the pixel art, shaders, and little animations in the UI are just perfectly crafted. And the whole game was made primarily by one person. This little game is easily one of my favorite games of the year, and I can tell I'm going to keep coming back to it for a long time. And that's something I can't really say about the other nominees this year. I beat Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, it was good, and I'll probably never open that game again. I explored every nook and cranny of Shadow of the Erdtree. Then when I started it again on another file, I was like, nah, I'm good actually. So I went and played Balatro some more. Now maybe you disagree, but the Elden Ring DLC just didn't make me want to keep coming back to it like the base game did. But Balatro, on the other hand, there's just something special about it. It oozes with soul. I asked my roommate, who also loves Balatro and Elden Ring, if he had anything to add to this video. He said, "If Elden Ring is the Mona Lisa, Balatro is like a picture your son drew that you'll hang on your fridge and love until you die." And it would be great to see something like that win Game of the Year. Someone just like you or me making an amazing game and beating out all these huge studios with their top-of-the-line hardware, graphics, paid DLCs, and microtransactions. It's the same reason I celebrated when Baldur's Gate 3 won. Because Larian Studios is a good, honest game developer who wouldn't put a microtransaction in their game if they had a gun to their head. When Larian made the definitive edition of Divinity Original Sin 2 with tons of new content, did they pull a Persona 5 Royal and charge you full price for the whole game again? No, it was a free update. Balatro has also had a lot of stuff added to the game completely free. I like that, and I want that sort of thing to be rewarded. So while it is funny for a DLC to win Game of the Year over a full game, I wonder if it could send a bad message to the big wigs in the gaming industry. Do we really want AAA game developers to see the Game Awards and say, oh, well, if Shadow of the Erdtree is Game of the Year, maybe we should just save time and focus on DLCs rather than making anything new? Developers already seem to be moving away from making good standalone games. It seems like every game has a season pass, paid expansions, or microtransactions. So I guess I just worry that a DLC winning the biggest award of the year will push developers to prioritize this business model even more than they already do. But maybe I'm just beating a dead horse, and the industry's already too cooked to go back. But with all that being said, if there was ever a DLC that deserved Game of the Year, it's probably Shadow of the Erdtree. It's bigger and better than many full games released by AAA studios in recent years. So I'm not one of those people saying, why is a DLC nominated? It's called the Game Awards. Just like I'm not one of the people that says, why are there trailers playing when it's called the Game Awards? The answer to both those questions is that sometimes things are more complicated than just what they're called. So I don't mind an exception being made for a particularly impressive DLC, but I don't really want DLCs winning Game of the Year to become the norm, and I don't really want Shadow of the Erdtree to win, because Balatro would be funnier. Alright, thanks for watching. Now that this video has caused every From Software fan who's subscribed to me to unsubscribe, stay tuned for my big video about Shadow of the Erdtree. And don't worry, it's not just going to be another video essay saying the DLC was too hard or it was trash or something. I've got a lot of things to say about it, good and bad, which is why it's taken me like 5 months to write. But yeah, go vote for Balatro. Do the votes even count? I don't even understand how that works. Oh well. Peace.